Network Entertainment.
You're listening to the Adobe Talks podcast, The Business of Creativity, a series of high level, inspirational, and educational sessions on how creativity unleashes inventive solutions that fuel the economy. In each episode, we'll be learning essential lessons through conversations with some of the brightest minds in the creative industries. I'm Angel Guerrero, founder, editor in chief of Adobe Magazine, and today I'm interviewing one of the Philippines' foremost creative minds, Melvin Mangada, Chairperson and CCO of TBWA Santiago Mangada Puno. I've been following his career for quite some time, and if there's anyone who can talk about our topic of the day, disruption, it's Melvin. Thanks for joining us today, Melvin.
Thank you for having me, Angel.
Lovely that you could come and join us here at Hit Productions. Now, I just go straight to it, right? Now, TBWA has disruption as the center of its ethos. Why do you believe it should always be at the center of creativity? And what, in your view, separates good disruption from the bad sort?
Okay, disruption is our operating system. TBWA worldwide has owned that philosophy, has even registered the word. Long before
They register the word?
they have, it's
Oh my
disruption with an
God.
R. And
Who would have thought you could
long before it became a buzzword, and when tech companies started using the word, and everything is based on this book, Disruption, written by Jean-Marie Drew, who was at the time our global CEO. And
I do have a copy in my bookshelf.
yeah,
Yes, so great.
I was gonna, you know,
And
give
you
you a
got
copy.
it in 1998.
Yes, because of this podcast, I looked at my library and found out that I got this 3 years before we established TBWA here in the Philippines. So it's amazing. I thought I got this from Jean Marie, but apparently I did it 3 years before. And pretty much disruption is all about defining the status quo, overturning conventions, and shaking up the marketplace so our clients and brands get a larger share of the future. Um, Back in the agency, we often mention a quote attributed to Albert Einstein.
Okay.
Insanity is doing things over and over again, expecting different results.
I like that.
And true enough, we often hear marketing people benchmark best practices. And really, to us, best practice is past practice. To quote a brilliant planner from AMV BBDO London, and is our goal limited to the successes of others, or should we forge our own ambitions? And you asked about what good disruption is, and basically, good disruption is one that creates a positive change and achieves the vision of a brand. Bad disruption is does not move the needle, and in fact, does not create any change in the marketplace.
What's an example of a
Bad disruption?
Yeah.
Well, okay, a campaign or a product that's launched that doesn't make a difference in the sales of the client. Um, in on
based on an insight that's wrong and an idea that was misplaced, perhaps?
Everything can happen. There's so many ways to look at to attack disruption. We look at the conventions first, and there's so many conventions we can look at. The consumer convention could be what a target market or what a consumer behaves right now. We could also talk about communication convention, which is what a brand's voice is, its platform, its tagline, and marketing conventions could be about the positioning, packaging, the distribution. Where is it heavily distributed? And there's also corporate convention, which deals more, tackles more of the vision, mission, and the values of a company. So these are different kinds of conventions which we try to we examine and choose which to disrupt.
Ah, okay. So you work with conventions and you disrupt conventions too.
Yes. There's a disruption framework. We start off with identifying a convention, and then we talk to the client and say, what is your vision of the brand? And a vision is something that is lofty, that one cannot attain. That's what a vision is all about. And the leap from the convention to vision is the disruption. And that's where our planners call original insights that hopefully come up with disruption statements. So, yeah, bad disruption is work that doesn't really make a difference for our clients.
Well, thank you very, very much for that. Now we get a better understanding about how disruption plays into your creative flow. Now, one of the most disruptive forces in the creative economy today, as we know, is the emergence of AI. Now, how do you view AI's role in advertising? And why do you say that you wouldn't rely on it as an ideator? We did talk about this. Yeah. Love to hear your point of view, Melvin.
Okay. Okay. Experts envision AI to be doing great things in the fields of medicine, engineering, and the sciences. And its ability to self teach is getting better and better. So the future of super machines is happening as we speak.
Yep.
But for now, for the creative industry, I think we should embrace the disruption of that AI is doing. Actually, do we have a choice, right?
No, we don't have a choice. You can't escape it. And it's been there actually for quite a while. It's just now AI, generative AI has exploded. It's open source and everyone has a hand on it in many ways, right?
Platforms and applications have been using AI for the past so many years, and
Correct.
we don't. I agree. We don't feel it, but now because of ChatGPT, Midjourney, and all these applications, an ordinary person is very aware of what AI can do. Um, but AI's current contribution to the creative process is the speed by which it operates. It produces results, prompted by humans in seconds. So I think that's basically what AI can do or help in the creative process. Because time at this stage is really a valued currency.
Yes, it is indeed.
A recurring complaint of agencies, especially creatives, would be the horrible, terrible, tight deadlines imposed by clients, right?
Yes.
And well, AI is here to help.
Help. Yeah.
Um,
Speed
uh,
things along. Yeah.
Let AI sweat the small stuff. Let them do the rough comps.
I love that. Let AI
Yeah, sweat on the small
sweat on
stuff.
the
Yeah,
small stuff.
and
Yeah.
and do the rough comps and text
Storyboards. Yeah.
storyboards authored by creatives. If I were to personify AI, at least as it is right now, I would um, it would be a reliable, eager to please, all-knowing but highly unoriginal
Yes.
personal assistant.
Yeah. Okay.
It has a wealth of data, but no original point of view. And that is why I think at this point, it should not be relied upon as an ideator. But I think this is when analytical thinking is most needed in solving not just communication problems, but world problems. And, we're so engrossed in digital insights for our own business agenda, and we forget the power of humanity, of how social and collaborative we are as a species. The more we are in touch with our humanity, and in the changing values and the culture, I believe that ideas will stand out from artificial intelligence.
Do you think
Go ahead.
artificial intelligence will learn this?
Oh, yeah. I think
I
AI
know they are starting.
AI is currently at its very primitive stage, and experts are saying that even the creators of AI are surprised at how far they can go, and how fast they self teach. It's too late to unplug
Yeah, it's too
AI.
late to unplug. Right?
But and that is why this is where I think disciplines in philosophy, psychology, humanities, and the arts are more relevant now, and will be needed as we get deeper into a world of AI. Because we will need to arm ourselves with basic human truths that AI is not aware of, such as um, what is morally acceptable, what is morally corrupt, the difference between good and evil. And AI cannot distinguish those things for now. We do. Uh, I follow this writer Yuval Noah Harari. He is a historian and a best-selling authors of books.
Yeah, Homo
Homo
sapien
sapiens, Homo Deus,
Deus, yes.
and he paints a bleak, a
A
bleak
bleak.
picture of our industry in one of his talks, and I wrote it down, and he says the new AI tools would have an immense influence on human opinions and on our worldview. People, for instance, are already coming to use a single AI advisor as the one-stop oracle, as a source for all the information they need. No wonder Google is terrified, and for good reason. Why bother searching when you can just ask the
Ask
oracle,
Oracle, yeah.
and he'll tell you anything? You don't have to search. And this is where it gets scarier, because he says the news industry and the advertising industry should also be terrified. Why read the newspaper when he says you can just ask the oracle to tell me the news? And what's the purpose of ads when a person can just ask the oracle to tell him what to buy? So there's a chance, he says, that within a very short time, the entire advertising industry will collapse,
That's a scary thought.
while AI and the people and the companies that control the new AI oracles will become extremely powerful. Now, it's
How
a
does one prepare for something like that, no?
well, you're great. The, you know, so people like Yuval presents always the negative. He's a philosopher.
Yeah, sure.
He's always a
There's
dooms.
also an alternative point of view,
Yeah,
of
which is
course.
the positive things that
AI has
this
done,
has
yeah.
done, and definitely it will help us creative people to be better in what we do. I'm not worried about jobs being lost. I mean, there will be jobs,
Definitely. Some writers will have to pivot, right?
but this new technology will also provide new opportunities and new jobs.
And new skills, right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
All the information is there. You can put certain elements together that you never thought could be put together. AI tells you what the outcome will be.
Well, again, going back to Yuval, he also says that AI doesn't have to tell us. AI machines will talk to each other at one point and can outwit us and run the world. So he talks about the end of human history. History will move on. Humanity with AI and technology will move on, but the era of human history, um, the kind that humans dictate, will end soon if AI is not you know,
Controlled
controlled
and
and
managed.
managed.
How nice if you said, I mean, if somebody actually put the when you put out any statement or news created by AI, then you're honest, right? Because people will accept things are created by, AI, right? News on the stock market, news on results of things. These are already AI generated, and you don't need a writer to put it together. But I like your point that you still need critical thinking. You still need, humanity to check, cross check whatever's out there. But it is indeed a scary thought.
That's why I think the more we are in touch with our humanity and how we think as people and how we deal with each other, the more we can arm ourselves against technology, data, and AI.
Well, thank you for that too. I mean, it's really interesting that you have looked through this disruptive tool called the AI tool, and it's not all doomsday so long as humanity knows how to work with it. Now, you've used Einstein's famous quote on insanity that you mentioned just now as a guideline on how you manage TBWA Santiago Mangada Puno. Now, could you tell us a little more about that? And on that note, what exactly does it take to be a consistent winner of Agency of the Year. How many years now have you won Agency of the Year?
We've won our 11th Agency of the Year medal last year.
Can you imagine that, guys? 11th Agency of the Year, and no one has matched TBWA in winning these many awards. And Agency of the Year, just so you know, it's not just one award. It's a series of awards that build up to the points for Agency of the Year. It's Best in Creative, Best in Management of Business, and all these things, market effectiveness, industry leadership. It's quite immense. So these guys have won 11 times. Well, yeah, to my question, you talked about Einstein's philosophy and how you've adapted and adopted the power of disruption throughout your agency.
So disruption is a philosophy, and we don't limit its power and practice to mere strategies and creative campaigns for our clients. We have to practice what we preach, and we've been disrupting different facets of our operations to address the changing needs. And I'll give you a few examples. Over a decade ago, I dissolved the creative department, and it was a most logical solution to a convention that the sole responsibility of creating ideas
Is from
rests on in a department, and there's always this conflict and tension between friction between departments. So I said, just get rid of a department called creative and establish creative collectives,
Okay.
which
That's a
are
nice
which are composed of business brand leaders, planners, strategists, content creators, and data analysts, and of course creatives. And we've been operating this way for the past 10 years.
I see. I didn't realize that. It's an interesting way. I mean, like in most agencies, creative departments there, account management's there, strategy is here, media is here. It's different departments. So you've actually 10 years ago
Yeah.
started this. Okay.
And it's scary because I'm used to control,
Yeah.
being the chief creative officer. But when you let go and let this new creative collectives function on their own, you'll actually see that becomes actually a more interesting organization because there are different points of
Yeah,
view.
the dynamics must be really rich. I mean, different,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're sitting beside a planner or a data scientist, you know.
So some people in the industry would say, "Oh, that's just a foxhole." No, a foxhole is created to address a business a business
A brief
problem.
or a
Yeah,
brief,
brief.
yeah.
But a creative collective addresses the encourages creative collaboration among different people from different disciplines. So, and I think that is what we need right now in our business. And around that time, we also established the industry's first full service in-house production called How. Well, Jimmy Santiago, my partner, gave the name House Everything, referring to hopefully we do everything in-house.
In-house. That's a brave move, right?
And
The other productions might not like what you're doing.
oh no,
but-
no, we still work with production
Oh, that's
houses.
good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's like a 60-40 split. We still
Okay.
we still work with the big production houses depending on the need of the clients. But House Everything solved recurring production issues such as speed.
Yes, I can imagine.
Timelines are now cut short when you have a creative team just down the corridor, and they'll just walk to House Everything and they discuss proactively ideas. So that collapses so many formal meetings. The painful negotiations of cost between accounts and clients are
Yeah,
it's
resolved
it's
there.
resolved right then and there. And lastly, an in-house broadcast team actually gives the agency control on the quality of the work, the scale, and the schedules of the production. So, and to date, House Everything is contributes to 18% of our
That's
revenues.
incredible. I mean, I think that case model of the way you run your business is quite unique. I mean, I don't know of any agency with a production house where the production contributes that much to business.
Because we've been in, we've had House Everything for 10 years. So I mean,
Incredible.
there were birth pains. It was very difficult. There
Sure.
were years of losses. No,
Mm.
and there's another innovation that we that our planners created. It's called Populist. It's
Okay.
okay to make it clear to everyone. It really is an online focus group discussion, but and the advantage of this, especially it was more evident during the pandemic, because instead of having a research company that will gather respondents to a place, to a common place, and usually it's in Manila. Populist engages respondents from far-flung areas in remote islands, and we get real-time response
Responses.
from
Yeah.
them, and it's faster, it's more efficient and more affordable for our clients. And
So that takes away from research agency who used to do focus group discussion, takes forever to get it done, get the results. It takes forever. So you're doing it now in house.
in-house,
Okay.
again, it's not that we're shutting off research
Yeah.
companies. We still collaborate with them, but it's always good to have our own
Of course. Yeah.
to move faster. And TBWA SMP became the network's first trans-border agency when we launched TBWA Borderless 2 years ago. It's an innovation that addresses the manpower issues on a local and global scale. We provide employment and source talent across the country and beyond. Locally, we during the pandemic, we started providing lucrative jobs for people outside Manila. And to this date, we have like a content creator in Kamsur, a planner in LU, because
That's
she loves
nice.
that lifestyle. We have people in live in Cavite. We used to have an accounts person based in Bukidnon. And we also have a creative director who's been with us for the past 8 years and had to move to Berlin because his wife had an opportunity with a big company there, and he's still our creative director.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So TBWA Borderless.
it's called yeah.
What a terrific thing. We have
The,
the same thing in Adobe Magazine, actually. But my art director, since the pandemic, is in Balair. He's surfing in between doing art direction.
that's
And we
how it
have
is,
my
no?
writers in Bacolod, and they're still there.
Right?
Yeah. So it's remarkable that you're able to do it so successfully.
But more beyond local borders, we've also provided manpower and talent for our offices in Dubai, in Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney, and New York. We had to fill in gaps in creative,
Oh, I see.
influencer
So you're creating jobs, basically,
outsourcing.
outsourcing jobs.
And
That's great.
we're excited because it also gives opportunities for local people to interact with offices
I think
outside.
what's nice is it's deliberate. You're actually doing it. I mean, as a business
Model, yeah.
opportunity, because I mean the norm is, oh, there's a job in Singapore, try it. But yours is actually whatever gaps there are, see what we can offer you. So it's really giving jobs.
Because we saw that as an opportunity, especially the past 3 years when offices were looking for the right people. And I mean, Angel, you know that the Philippines that the Philippine talent is in demand,
Yes.
and we had to capitalize on that. That's an insight which I think more creative shops should be
It's good thing you're not afraid of losing your talent pool to another office,
We've
right?
lost a lot, but that's how it is. I mean,
Yeah, it's great. It's generous.
yeah.
Some people are so protective. You can't go anywhere, right? But it's wonderful that you're giving opportunities to
There was one
people.
occasion, if you remember, when Sri Lanka's economy collapsed due to some political issues. Manila was the first TBWA agency to reach out to Sri Lanka and ask them, if you need jobs, we will, rather than hire locally, we'll give you a work. And it worked for I think half a year while the unrest and uncertainty was happening in Colombo. So it was also a good way to connect with our brothers in Sri Lanka. Yeah.
It's quite a story.
And on your question on being a
Consistent
consistent agency of the
AOI
year
winner.
winner, but by the way, before anything else, all these innovations, there are a lot more. Some of them are confidential, but trade secrets. But but all of this really, all these innovations were really created to support the creative product. Everything has to should redound to the creative work. Now, going back to the second part of your question, which is
Yes.
on being a consistent agency of the year winner, I don't want to feign modesty by saying it's luck. Luck is not a strategy. Neither are nor are prayers and wishes.
You can add that a little in, though, but yeah.
You know, it's all about good work. It's all about hard work, and it's also, at the end of the day, all about teamwork. And I'd like to challenge that thinking that winning really rests on a really good case study. I don't think that's the case. Yes, I agree that case studies should be engaging and clear, but we have to start with a strong piece of work. If the work isn't good enough, no amount of spinning in a case study will help. Jury jury members have become so sharp
Indeed.
at looking at case studies. They can sniff out fluff and fakery.
That's great to hear.
No, they are. I mean, because they're exposed to case studies, and I assure we aren't deluded to think that we would always win the AOI every year.
Sure.
We put our best work out there, fully aware that it's not just about how good our work is, but how another agency's work could possibly be better. And that in a way grounds us and keeps us on our toes.
So there's also that sense of competition.
There has to be.
Always. Well said. Anyway, how does one develop the disruptive mindset? You know how sometimes there's a sense of complacency when you're so used to a certain way of doing things, working with the same brand, and clients like already what you're doing. I mean, how do you develop? Do you have any tips on, what we can do is add people?
Well, we're fortunate to be guided by a disruption framework, and I mentioned it earlier that we start with a convention, we identify the vision, and then we formulate the creative or disruptive strategies. When you practice this framework daily, it becomes second nature to us to think of disruption as a solution, not just for advertising and but also for businesses, for our personal lives, and especially as we view ourselves as creative people. I think most of us we feel that we are boxed in as a type of creative in the industry, and I think we're more than what our job defines us to be. And I'll give you an example. The two executive creative directors back in the agency, they have thriving online platforms. One shares a podcast with
That's CJ, is it?
CJ
Yeah,
De Silva.
De Silva Ong, yes.
Shares a podcast with her husband, and it's been there for quite some time. It has a loyal following. It's growing. And then the other ECD, Janet De Vera, is an Instagram influencer on design with more than 100,000 followers.
Amazing.
And I really think that they've become really good creative leaders because of their lives outside advertising. And the convention then before was you have to live and breathe advertising. These days, and maybe it was wrong right from the very beginning, advertising person becomes more creative when he's exposed to the real world. On a personal, I personally, for the past 12 years, I produced films that have been in film festivals like the Venice Film Festival. It was an
Which one was this?
Thy Womb with
Thy Womb,
Vilante
of
Mendoza,
course.
and it was an
Yes.
experience walking down the red carpet with Nora Honor and Lavipo and all these big stars. That was an experience. I also I also help in as you know, I love art and,
Yes.
and visual design. So I currently sit in the board of the Museum Foundation of the Philippines that helps raise funds for the National Museum. which we all know that the government can't afford everything that the National Museum needs, and that's why the MFPI is there. I have been recently appointed by the President of the Philippines to the Design Advisory Council of the Design Center of the Philippines, representing the private sector. And I know Angel.
I sat there for the past 3-4 years.
So I don't.
Private sector
I'm,
as
I'm not
well.
sure if I'm.
I think you might be taking over my role. I'm
But
not
I
sure.
saw your name under my name. It was Melvin Mangada, Vice Norma
Yeah,
Guerrero.
Norma Angel Guerrero.
Norma
That's
Angel
my full name.
Guerrero. So I suppose you're still there. I'm not
Maybe
sure.
advisory, but I also got appointed by the president in the middle of pandemic, the previous administration, and after it's actually coterminous with the president. So now that it's a new president, there should be technically a new design advisory council. So I'm glad you're there because I've known the work you've done is very high design. I mean, in advertising, when I go to your office, it's really well decorated. The art you have on the wall is tremendous. So I know that about you. And sitting in the design advisory council, advising, the people who run policy is wonderful.
Yeah, and I hope to help the a growing creative industry in the Philippines, with the policies and whatever
Programs, yeah.
programs that the government would want to implement. And recently, I just came from a national conference of coffee, cocoa, and coconut
What brought you there?
of farmers, held in Iloilo last November. And what brought me there? Well, I have inherited a bit of property in the Eastern Visayas, and I've been curious since I got the piece of land on how to make coconut more productive, the yield of coconut more productive, and how to give more income to the farmers. And I belong to a farmers co-op right now. I'm proudly a farmer, and it actually, I mean, when I go to the farm, I get inspired by the simple life there and the possibilities, and in a way, I bring a bit of that back
To work, yeah. So I like what you've done. I mean, you've actually gone out and you're encouraging everyone in the creative industry, right, to disrupt your advertising life by really doing other things outside of what you normally do. And you're proof in the pudding, and your team as well are examples of that.
Before we would think that doing things outside the work would be like a sideline.
Yes, it was
Now,
before. It was like, what's he doing sideline? Or he's not focusing on work. There was always this guilty, right? You felt guilty when you were doing something else, but now it's embraced. It should be embraced.
and the one thing we've been talking about in the agency is, and I've been telling the teams that we should learn to work. No, we should work with people who know something that we don't, and that's the only.
That's a great
I think
one.
it's one way to broaden our thinking on what creative is all about. And in the recent Cannes Festival, I was listening to Scott Galloway, and again he said something that was very interesting, and he said, "Surround yourself with people who are unafraid to contradict you. Agreeable people give you a false sense of greatness."
Greatness.
Isn't that? I mean, that's practical. And for a manager or for a senior person, the tendency is you would shy, or you would not want to be contradicted. But these days, with the generation having access to so much information, senior management is not necessarily.
The know-it-all, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you know that the pandemic has really disrupted, right, in the way we do things. With more agencies embracing remote work, I know a lot of agencies are not 100% back to work. By your evaluation, have the changes been good for creative economy and all things considered, this hybrid way of working or twice a week or just the disruption of pandemic, right? It's changed so much. Digital has, come into full force.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just to tell you a short story. A few months before the world shut down, that was I think around October, September of 2019, we were already operating with a 1 day a week work from home.
Ah.
It was working well. It was because of the creative collectives they could actually do it, and they could actually create work and meet outside the agency. Um, in January of 2020, 2 months before the shutdown on the pandemic, I was suggesting to the senior management, why don't we go for a 4 day work from home setup? And just one day to go to work, everyone from the agency to go to work, and just to to develop to sustain the culture, the agency culture. And that was too disruptive for the senior management. They shut it down. And then COVID happened,
And voila.
and and my idea proved that remote work can work. And
But what made you think of that before the pandemic? I mean, everyone thought of it after the pandemic, during the pandemic. What made you think that it could work
well,
regardless of the
first of all, the way we're structured, we're not departments. As I mentioned to you, a creative
collective?
collective can actually function on its own.
Mm.
And number two, we realized how underutilized, and this is where I'm going to talk about how how the pandemic has actually proven to be a good thing for the corporate world. Technology and tools have been underutilized. We had Zoom, we had Teams at the time, but no one was really using much of it. And we felt that, yeah, we can do it. And well, maybe I was just testing the senior management. I was just pushing them and say, why don't we try it? But well, it worked.
And now you are, how many times a day do you go to the office?
I personally go to work 2 times, twice a week. Each collective is required to just to go to work once a week.
That's not bad at all.
But no, we're changing. It's a function of the size of the office that we have right now. But we
Did you
are
reduce the size of your office?
from 1,020 square meters to a 200 square meter.
Okay.
But we're going back to a slightly bigger space, so that more so that the teams can come to work at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Do you see a difference between meeting in person versus meeting via Zoom? I mean, I know a lot of people have been able to hurdle that. Normally you say it's not going to work when it's on screen, right?
Yeah.
But it has been.
I
Do you
think
see a difference?
I think we are well, number one, it works. It works, and we've seen it work for the past 3 years. But humans are social by nature. We want to communicate and connect with people this way,
Certainly.
and I think we need that. But the young generation, they're quite they can adapt to so many to either face to face.
Yeah, they're very adaptive, right? They're used to you're used to life online, right? Yeah.
And so I don't think I think the pandemic has actually pushed us to appreciate so many things that has been there for quite some time. We've
Right.
maximized existing tools and platforms like Zoom, and our bandwidth, our the Wi-Fi. We haven't been using it as much as we should, and of course, you know, time, as I mentioned earlier, is a very valuable currency to a lot of people, especially for single working parents. And the work from home has allowed them to spend more quality time with their families. And also, the Philippines is Manila, at least the Manila traffic is ranked as.
Worst in the world.
Is it worse or
No, no, I know, but what's his name? Chris Martin. Coldplay was just here, and when he was on stage, he says, "Without a doubt, Manila has the worst traffic, number one."
And the work from home has actually allowed our people to spend, instead of wasting 2 to 3 hours,
In transportation, yeah, in traffic, yeah.
they're now with their families. So I think it's generally the pandemic has shown us different ways and different possibilities and how we do things.
And time, right? Time is so important.
Yeah.
Where you don't want to be sitting in the traffic, you want to be more productive, and you could be more productive if you're at home, right? Not stuck in traffic. Well, thank you very much for. We appreciate what you just said. Now, we met in Shanghai recently, and you were a jury in the One Show, One Asia Awards. Now, because that just happened recently, I just wanted to know, in terms of the kind of work that's out there that you've judged, what particular campaign stood out and how, could you tell us a little more about it?
I have two.
Okay.
What struck me the most was the first digital nation. It's a classic example of technology and brilliant creativity working together. It's a stunning reminder of the reality of climate change
Yes, I love that campaign. It's really well done. Yeah.
and its effects on a narrow island nation like Tuvalu. And I was impressed at the scale of the idea and how they were able to involve the leaders of Tuvalu to advocate and to talk about climate change and how it is affecting this island nation. I think this campaign also should also resonate well with us Filipinos.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I think the idea was Tuvalu, if the waters went up or the temperature gets hotter, the water will rise and Tuvalu will disappear. So
That's actually a forecast.
yeah, it's a
because
forecast.
it's a narrow island nation. It will disappear in a few decades or so.
So that campaign was trying to remind everyone this is what's going to happen, and they use technology for that, right?
They started digitizing the country. So I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And the other campaign that left a good impression is a simple film from Japan for the Sotetsu line. And I remember the campaign was entitled "A Train of Memories." It's a heartwarming film showing a compressed timeline of a father and daughter in the train, their daily commute through the years. And one would think that the creators, they're Japanese, they would employ the state of the art technology to execute the film. And because I did watch the behind the scenes, almost everything is manual. The gentle undulating of the coach was actually manipulated by propsmen in green suits against green screen. And then you have more than 24 of fathers and daughters cast superbly to show the passage of time and the styling, the other elements, the craftings of the entire piece that included music, cinematography, and editing were just truly inspiring. So that's a film that I will still remember until for quite some time.
That's nice. As you say, sometimes it's the craft of it where it's unexpected, where a digitally savvy country is using analog, and I think it's like Oppenheimer tries to avoid CG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Christopher
surprised.
Nolan did a great job.
Actually, the first time I saw the train of memories, I thought everything was digitally
manipulated.
And even without knowing that everything was manual, it still left
A
a
good
very
film.
good
Yeah,
it still left a good feeling about it, and the film became more meaningful and enriching when I found that everything was really manual. So.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Thank you for sharing what campaign stood out for you. Now, could you tell us a little about how literally unprecedented ideas like your campaigns for Boysons came to life? Now, I followed Boyson for years, and I've seen all the work through the years win a lot of local and international awards. In fact, you've won, a lot of Cannes Lions Gold. I mean, really tremendous amount of excellent work for a brand. I mean, to think, it's a paint, right? Boyson is can paints with different colors. How are you able to craft wonderful ad campaigns for this brand, Boyson?
Thank you, Angel. But let me start by saying that our client is a tough one.
Okay.
She knows what she wants for her brands. She's very exacting, and she knows all the expenses behind the production. The flip side to that is that she's very generous and open to creative ideas. The series of celebrated work that you've mentioned started with a small requirement. I think it was 12 years ago. It was a graphic design on a reusable, eco-friendly bag made out of cheesecloth, and it was intended to be a Boysen giveaway. And the art director at that time, Mel Aguinaldo, created a splash of green paint on the canvas that resembled the foliage of a tree. And that was the genesis of the campaigns that followed. Then the following year, there was a requirement for to announce that all boys and paints are lead free and that they're all environment friendly. And a different team latched on to that original idea and came up with boys and flowers.
That's
The
beautiful. Yeah.
beautiful splashes of paint
Paint, yes. And they form into
into
flowers.
flowers.
Beautiful, yeah.
And then another team 2 years later created Boys and Creatures, which featured a jellyfish, a praying mantis, and a snail to again communicate that it's so safe even for creatures. Again, that also got noticed by the international festivals. 10 years later, Angel, which is I think it was last year, we launched a third campaign similar to that, which for boys and bug off, and this time it's a paint that actually takes care of the little pests in the house, like flies, mosquitoes, and cockroaches, and the team created the same. It was an extension of the past campaigns, and it has won a few awards recently abroad, and uh, another campaign that we were very proud of is the Boys and Knocks Out Project EDSA, and that was a huge um, undertaking involving different municipalities, a curator, Marianne Roses, and different artists from different parts of the world, and the agency was involved right from the very beginning. Of course, we didn't have to deal with the mayors and MMDA, and we were very fortunate that. One artist had to back out. So the client said, "Why don't you paint one wall of Boys and Paint?" And the "This Is a Tree" campaign was born. And
Yeah, it's an amazing campaign because I know that paint, how do you call it? It
it's
controls pollution, right?
it's
It
it's it's called Boys and Knocks
knocks
Out.
out, yes.
It actually uh, absorbs the noxious fumes emitted by
Cars,
cars.
yes.
And 1 square meter of Boysen knocks out is equivalent
Equivalent
to
to a
one to
tree.
one a full-grown tree.
So yeah, can you imagine? Boyson painted the whole main thoroughfare of Metro Manila with art using Boyson, but at the same time, it helped to control pollution.
Yes, and there were gadgets that would measure the drop of pollution, and indeed, Al Jazeera in fact featured it and said there was a decrease of noxious fumes by 20%. Again, and when a client tastes this kind of creativity that's celebrated abroad, they become an entirely different beast. They become more demanding of the kind of work
Isn't
you
that great?
produce. It's yes, it's a challenge, and the client has become a friend of mine. In fact, she went to Cannes with me.
Yeah, I remember. Yes.
And fortunately, we won, I think, a silver for knocks out. Thank God. and then we came back to Manila, and she said, "I want another campaign for colors. This time, let's just celebrate the world of colors." And at that year, I took a side trip to Venice and attended the Biennale, and I saw an installation with cans of paint with colors dripping out of the cans. And I said, "That's the campaign." So I came back, asked the art director to do some comps, and it was an easy sell. We just presented. There was no headline. There was no.
Yes, that's a beautiful
There was just a
campaign.
visual of
Cans
the
of
cans
paint
of
with
paint
colors dripping.
and
Yeah,
the
a wall of it, right? It was a wall of it.
and the
Yes.
branding is just between all the drippings of colors. You see boys, and we didn't even write. We didn't even have to have an independent, logo of the brand. So, and it was an easy sell to client. It just again just took so many, it just took so many awards, and
So it's great you have a client like Jackie. I have to give, right? It's Jackie. Is that right?
Yeah, Jackie Ongking, yes,
Yeah, on King and
at the time when Boys and Knocks Out was entered in Cannes, it also won a medal in the innovation
innovation
category,
category.
and
Yes.
when you're shortlisted, the agency and the client are supposed to present to the jury, and you know how cooperative our clients are. The brother Johnson, when we told him we need a client who has to present, said, "I'm going." And he went in front of
The jury
the
in
jury
Cannes,
with
yes.
our writer,
Yes.
Ines Jaime, who was
Yes.
at the time taking her vacation in Italy, and we requested that she joins our client on stage. And I just think it was a lovely image to see our client and a young creative
I
on
was there.
stage.
I was
remember,
in
hey,
Cannes. I witnessed it. I
you were
videoed
actually
it.
recording the
Yes, I
video.
recorded that. And
Oh,
you're
thank you.
right. It's pretty amazing that a client went to Cannes to explain the campaign together with an account person or creative person. And that's, you want a medal for it. The jury didn't have too many questions. But thank you for sharing how you created a great campaign, the great campaigns for Boysen. And your clients had a lot of to do with it. Now let's talk about clients. What kind of clients do you think? Oh my God, it's 51 minutes.
We're almost done, I think.
All right. So, what kind of clients do you think really, the kind of clients you want to work? What's an ideal client for you? And I know TBWA has had clients that have lasted years. Tell me how that's all working out for you.
Rather than talk about disruptive work clients that we create for clients, I would like I'd rather talk about the value I give to clients who started with TBWA when we were still a small, struggling startup with no agency of the metal to show off. No, I'm proud to say that Boysen has been with us for 28 years. Longer,
20?
yeah, 28 years.
Oh my
Longer
goodness.
than
Did you hear that? The boys in class been with the agency for 28 years. This is
they were with
remarkable.
SPA, Santiago and Puno Advertising, and then when Jimmy and Tong, invited me to put up TBWA, Boysen continued their relationship with us. Alaska Milk Corporation has been with us for 22 years. They for the longest time they've had two agencies, but recently they've consolidated all their businesses with us. Ayala Corp. The past 21 years, they've been giving us businesses from different parts of their conglomerate. We have Peerless, the makers of Champion and
yes.
Hana, wonderful clients. They've been with us for the past 18 years. Del Monte, another big brand, gave some. We lost some businesses to other agents, but recently other agencies. But recently, they've come back, and now we're handling more of their businesses. We also have Owishi, who's been with us for another 16 years, and Bench for 12 years. Has been with us longer than any other agency that they've engaged with. So I'm very proud of that kind of relationship we've built with our clients.
You're in a privileged position to have so many clients. I mean, this is a lot of clients that you've held for a
And
very
these are
long
not
time.
these are not multinationals. These are local clients.
Yes,
so
that's
they could
right.
easily bid out their business to other agencies. And I think that union is proof of partnership built on mutual respect and trust. I don't think such strong relationships are built solely on friendship. Real disruptive work strengthens the relationship further.
So, given all we've talked about thus far, what do you feel is the future of disruption in advertising? What would it be like?
Let me start by saying that the future of disruption in our industry is happening now as we speak.
Indeed.
We've talked about AI, we've talked about technology and data. They're all certainly evolving faster than the speed of culture. And the industry has been in a state of flux for a decade, and we can't simply sit back and wait for the next big shift. We should try to be more proactive with these changes, create things and services that we hope will solve emerging problems. And it's okay to fail spectacularly
I like that.
several times
Yeah.
because we have,
Yeah.
and just keep on disrupting conventions and finding solutions to help creativity thrive.
Well said. Well, disruption can certainly be inspiring, especially with your insights, Melvin, on this matter. Thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge. I really appreciate now how TBWA has been winning Agency of the Year with your Creative Collective and your, all the other programs you have and your production outsourcing and helping other markets with talent sourcing. Now, before we sign off, is there any last piece of advice that you'd like to share with our audience, Melvin?
Well, thank you for the invite, Angel. It's always a pleasure having a conversation with you. Um, I'd like to add one more point on the question, what the future of disruption in advertising will be like.
Okay.
And one real scary truth is the lack of talent. The recurring complaint of agencies, because I'm part of the 4A's Philippines, and the current complaint, the recurring complaint is in the hiring and sources of the next generation of creative geniuses. And there's so many online platforms from social to gaming that can showcase creative talent and at the same time generate income for them. They have so many options now compared to our time.
Yeah, creativity can go anywhere to platforms to brand even. Clients are hiring creatives.
And the question
in-house.
is, how do we attract them in our industry? The corporate structure, as we know it, is an old school construct. And I suspect it may not be appealing to them anymore. Loyalty isn't as important a value as it was before, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's just that values have changed. Mental wellness is an issue right now. It's endemic across all industries. Are we doing enough about these things? When I mention all these conditions of talent and the lack of talent, I suppose it's the industry is ripe for a disruption. And templates from the West, I think, won't necessarily
Apply here.
solve our problems. America has so many social and political problems of their own, and is certainly not a sterling example on how to manage young talent when the very concept of a corporate world or corporate structure started with them on Wall Street. So I think innovation should come from local minds, local thinking, and should not be limited to tech and shiny things. Our industry is run by human talent, and we should explore and investigate ways to nurture and attract such talent.
Well, thank you for your point about saying that there's a shortage of talent. However, in the Philippines, we know we're one of the most creative cultures in the world. I think the question is, will these creative talents join our industry?
That
Yeah.
agree. Creative talent abounds, but we in the advertising industry we're running out of
Out
them.
of them, yeah. Well, let's hope we fix that issue. And thank you very much for your insights. Well, cheers, Melvin. I know you love a nice glass of red wine.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you. Well, thank you for listening to and watching this episode of the Adobo Talks podcast with our very special guest, Melvin Mangada. The Adobo Talks podcast, The Business of Creativity, is available on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Adobo Magazine's platform. The Adobo Talks podcast, The Business of Creativity, is produced by Adobo Magazine, the word on creativity, in partnership with the Pod Network and recorded in partnership with Hit Productions. Tune in next week for another insightful conversation with one of the brightest minds in our creative industries.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.